This is a prep lesson to help you get ready for the objective of adding and subtracting fractions. So there are three things we're going to do in this, three little practices. The first one, we're going to add fractions that already have a least common denominator. So if you had something like 2/5 plus 1/5, since they are both described as fifths, you can keep the fifths, add the numerators, or subtract if it's that. In this case, you get 3/5, and then you'll want to simplify or reduce this to lowest terms. So that's the first thing we're going to do. The second thing is, if two fractions do not have a common denominator already, if they don't have the same denominator, then we have to redesign each fraction so that they share a common denominator. So that'll be the second lesson, and we'll practice on that. So if you had, and I'm just going to make up something, suppose you had 5/6 and you wanted to add to it 1/4. Well, since 6 and 4 are not the same number, we have to talk about strategies for finding the least common denominator, which is the least common multiple. We're looking for a number that 6 will divide into evenly and 4 will divide into evenly. We're going to get a couple of different ways to do it. The answer to this would be that the least common denominator is 12. That's the smallest number possible that 6 will go into and 4 will go into. And we'll talk about those kinds of problems. The last thing is, suppose that we did have 5/6 plus 1/4, and we determined that the common denominator was 12. Then we would need to build equivalent fractions. We'd say, well, 6 has changed. What is 6 multiplied to turn it into 12? The answer is 2. So do the same thing to the top. We get 10/12. 10/12 is equivalent to 5/6. So that'll be the last thing that we do in these exercises. Let's take a look at a few. The first one, it says to add 3/4 and 3/4. Now, it's up to you. You can do them horizontally or you can write them out vertically. Okay, since these already have the same denominator, we're good. We can add them. It needs to stay fourths. Don't change the denominator. Add the two numerators, and I get 6/4. Now, it's improper. Improper is not the problem, but it is not simplified. You can divide, well, let me make that a division symbol. You can divide by 2, the top and the bottom, and you will get 3/2. The fact that it's improper is not a problem. All right, let's look at another one where we have common denominators. I have 1/8x plus 5/8x. Once again, I already have a common denominator, so all I need to do is keep the 8x, add the tops. 1 plus 5 is 6. Can I reduce? Yes, again, 2 is the common factor. 2 goes into the top 3 times, 2 goes into the bottom 4x times. I have my answer. It's reduced to lowest terms. Number 3, suppose I have 9a/8 minus 3/8. So I'm lucky again, got my common denominator. The denominator will stay 8. Now, I need to take 9a minus 3. Well, that's a little bit of a problem. 9a minus 3. Those are not like terms. That's a variable term. That's a constant term. When you encounter that, you're done. We will not have any problems like that you would be able to reduce. So don't even try. All right, so first 3 problems, practice. You've already got a common denominator. Just add and simplify or reduce. The next few problems, we're going to find the least common denominator. Now, there are several ways to do this. In these first ones, I'm going to give you a very formal way to do this. Suppose I have a denominator of 28 and 98, and I'm trying to find something that they will both go into, something 98 will divide into and 28 will divide into, and that might be kind of hard for me to think about. So here is a little trick for finding the least common denominator. I'm going to put an upside down division box on it, and I'm going to divide by only prime numbers. We talked about prime numbers before. Smallest prime number is 2, so I'm going to divide by 2. All it has to do is be able to go into one of them. It doesn't have to be able to go into both. 2 goes into 28 14 times. 2 goes into 98 49 times. Will 2 go into either one of them still? Yes. 2 goes into 14 7 times. It doesn't go into 49, so bring it down. That might seem a little strange. Now, 2 won't work anymore. The next prime number is 3. It doesn't work. 5, it doesn't work. 7. And you don't have to go in order. 7 goes into 7 once. 7 goes into 49 7 times. Will 7 work again? Yes. It doesn't go into 1, so bring it down, but it goes into 7 one time. When you get all ones, that tells you that you're done, and your least common denominator is the product of the prime factors. So you might grab your calculator, and I get that the least common denominator is 196. 98 will go into 196. 28 will go into 196. It's the smallest number that you can find. So this is a nice little process. You don't always have to use it, but it's nice when the numbers are bigger. It's also nice when you have 3 numbers. So let's try it again. I have 27, 21, and 14. I'm going to use my primes, remember, looking for this least common denominator. The smallest prime is 2. Will it go into any of them? Yes. It doesn't go into 27, it doesn't go into 21, but it goes into 14 7 times. All right, 2 doesn't work anymore. Does 3? Yes. Once again, you don't have to go in order, but I usually do. 3 goes into 27 9 times, it goes into 21 7 times, and it doesn't go into 7. 3 will work again, goes in there 3 times, bring down the 7, bring down the 7. 3 will work again, 1, bring down the 7, bring down the 7. The last prime number that will divide is 7. And so now I have all ones, which tells me it's done. My least common denominator is 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 7. So over on my calculator, I'm going to multiply that. And that gives me, wow, 378. The smallest number that all of those will go into is 378. Now, there are many times when I don't have to use this little trick of dividing by prime numbers, and I'll talk about that in the next lesson. But I just wanted you to have it. When you are faced with the challenge of finding a least common denominator and you can't think of a thing, then you can use this prime factor division. All right, the last objective, or the last little prep skill, is to find equivalent fractions. Excuse me. So, suppose I have 3/4, and for some reason I decide I want it to turn into 20ths. Well, you'll just compare. 4 goes into 25 times, so multiply 5 times the top, and you get 15. And that's all you're going to do. Next one, 6 goes into 36 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. Next one, 5 goes into 50 10 times. 10 times 1 is 10. 19 goes into 38 2 times. 2 times 17x is 34x. Don't lose the x. Whoops, sorry. Number 10, 3 goes into 12 4 times. 4 times 4y is 16y. And the last one, what would I have to multiply 13 by to get not just 65, but 65a? I would need to multiply it by 5a. So do the same thing to the top. 7 times 5a gives me 35a. So these are just little prep skills. We'll do more with each one of them in the lessons coming up.